There's this idea that if you're only going to do something one time or a couple times, just pick up a hand tool or chisel and just get it done. But if you're going to be doing something a few hundred times, it's time to set up a jig. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So I just finished a batch run of making these French squares. By the way, they are available in my online store. And the last step is truing them up, making it a perfect 90 degrees from the front of the handle to this outside. That's basically the only thing you use a French square for, or some people call them tri-squares. And it doesn't take but a minute or two to true it up with a hand plane and a pencil or a knife. Just lay out your lines and take off what you need. I've done a couple videos on how to do that. But when you're doing 100 or 200 of the same step, and each one takes a minute or two, well, that's a few hours worth of work. If you could reduce that down to maybe 10 or 15 minutes, that's a huge time saver, plus the fact you might be able to make it more consistent. And that's where jigs come into play. But if you're in a small shop like me, you just can't build a separate jig for every process that you've got to repeat over and over and over. And that's why I've come to depend upon just a few jigs, such as my table saw sled. I built an oversized table saw sled for my contractor saw, not a very big saw. It gives me a lot more room right here, and I can modify this simple device for a whole bunch of different applications. Here's how I do it. First is to make sure you get all the dust off, and then refer to my ever popular blue tape. Now in this particular instance, all I want to do is create a jig where I can just shave the slightest amount off just to make sure that it's a completely 90 degrees, because sometimes when I glue them up, I might be a degree or two off. So what I'm going to do is turn to hot glue, grab my machine setup triangle and a parallel block of wood. Put a little hot glue down, lay it right on the blue tape, make sure everything is lined up, and set it off a distance just a little bit more. After that, the process for truing up all my framing squares is as simple as lining everything up, then verifying it with a straight edge. Dead on perfect. What's nice about this setup is when I'm done, nothing has happened to my jig. So if you are like me and you do small batch production runs every now and then, you don't have to have a separate jig for every single thing you do. I mean, a few minutes or two modifying an existing kind of standardized jig in a manner that is reversible will save yourself a lot of time, a lot of money prepping in the materials for this kind of stuff, and you don't have to store it all over the place. Blue tape and hot glue, best friend you have with jig making. So for today's bonus, I want to talk about Peter Galbert. He is probably one of the better chair makers out there, and he's a wonderful educator. He does have a YouTube channel, and a lot of the videos he has on it are, 5 to 7 years old, and they're very short clips. But what he has done, he has taken the hardest parts of what he teaches and just put them into little nuggets, kind of like tips we do today. So I'll put a link down to his channel. I highly suggest it. You can blast through a lot of them really quickly. It's Peter Galbert, a wonderful chair making teacher.